Hey, I'm Jeff Dias, owner and co-founder of PT Autosport.
I'm Alex Sedgwick, driver partner number one and co-founder of PT Autosport.
Yeah, so today I think we're trying to give you a little bit of a glimpse on how we met and how PT Autosport came together. And Alex can probably dive into this first because he actually met Jason before I met Jason. So, Alex, please.
Absolutely,
Please
yeah.
share.
So it was all very out of the blue for me, really. I'd kind of stepped away a little bit from racing over the last 18 months or so, working in a role in events, basically, running luxury driving tours across Europe, which was going to be my post-racing career, really, at the old age of 23. Um, and yeah, that was very fun, very enjoyable. And it was on one of those tours that I met Jason Myers, our team principal now at PT Autosport. We got talking, we got on, swapped numbers at the end of it, but never really thought much of it, really, until a few weeks later, after the tour ended. I get a text out of nowhere asking, Jason asking if I'd got 911 Cup car experience and whether I wanted to come out to NJMP to help out with your car, as you guys had been introduced in the meantime. So yeah, very very out of the blue, like kind of not really expecting too much from it. And then we had a little Zoom call, and obviously we met for the first time in NJMP in July last year, where we had a very eventful test day with everything but a lot of driving, pretty much. But it's a story for another day. But yeah, the three of us really kind of clicked and got on and started playing around with ideas as to how we could make PT Autosport what it is now, and it went from there, really.
Yeah, if we had anything that tested our muster and adversity and grit was that test day where definitely the car literally just came over from Europe. It was never track prepped. It was literally prepped at the track, so it definitely spent a lot of time on air jacks. And that's when I knew Jason was the right person because he willingly fell on the sword and drove 2 hours east of NJMP and came back 2 hours with the wrong brake rotors to realize that the brake rotors that we needed were used in a shop that was actually on campus at NJMP. And he definitely held a lot of his frustrations to himself. And that's when I knew he had like kind of that resilience and what I'm looking for, at least from a team principal, to kind of lead PT Autosport moving forward. Alex in particular was very interesting because actually the first time we ever chatted was on a Zoom call, and I was busy trying to load a car on a trailer and didn't properly lock the trailer into the hitch. And as soon as I drove the car up, the trailer went fully up like this, about maybe like terrible at geometry, maybe 70 degrees this way. But I told him, give me a pause. I was like, give me like 2 seconds. Let me hop back on the Zoom call. We spoke a little briefly. I wasn't even actually on the videos. I think I only saw you, but you didn't see me.
Yeah.
And but the whole fact that you even flew over, taking a chance on something that we didn't even know what it was going to be. Because I think when you originally came, you were thinking you were just going to coach me.
Absolutely, yeah. So I came over with very little idea as to kind of what the potential was or what this may be, and yeah, I thought my role was come and coach you and teach you how to drive your cup car, and obviously it's become so much more, and obviously I'm very very grateful for the opportunity to return to racing and obviously build all of this with you and Jason.
Definitely. To even go even further, we definitely took a lot of excursion trips over the course of the next 2 months, and one in particular that I really enjoyed was actually the VIR trip, because that's when I quickly learned that being a spectator was not what we really wanted to be, and we wanted to be competing as a team in the paddock. And seeing the scale of the different teams, it just kind of gained that perspective, since that was something that was more new to me as opposed to you and Jason, who have been in motorsports for much longer than I have, since I'm the newbie. But I saw a lot of parallels that were there within other competitive industries, like in the finance industry and whatnot, and seeing how that kind of translates into competitive environments in motorsports. and it was very intriguing to see that and see where we could potentially go. Because there's just so many avenues we can grow from here. But the great thing is that we kind of started with the right core of people, and we can kind of just build on there, especially as we just have our new addition and our driver partner number 2, Henry Drury.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, what are your thoughts of Henry?
Well, where do I start? No, Henry's super impressive. Obviously, the kind of phase 2 beyond planning out our racing programs for this year was to build out this platform of development, really, and that will encompass a lot of different roles in the motorsports industry over time. We started with our first inaugural aspiring driver shootout at the end of last year, where Henry was our first winner, and he won due to a lot of, we kind of spoke a lot before about desired qualities and the type of person we wanted to work with, and obviously natural talent behind the wheel is a big part of that, but also the perseverance and the grit and the determination, especially with Henry's story and his background in figure skating and recovering from a pretty significant injury. I feel like we have a very good basis to make a pretty good race car driver out of it.
Out of curiosity, out of all the candidates you saw in the shootout, what were some of your takeaways just overall from, especially since some individuals never drove a stick shift before, which was pretty interesting.
Absolutely, and obviously the final 8 we had, it was sight unseen effectively. We'd had video interviews with them and kind of seen their applications, but we'd never met any of them. We'd never seen any of them drive. So I think the standard overall to start off with that we ended up with across the final 8 was so high, and we're very fortunate that we kind of uncovered those 8 talents. But I think the top 3, top 4 especially, it was a lot of shared skills, adaptability, how they learned and how coachable they were, being able to listen to our coaching team and the progression they made across the 2 days we had at NJMP, which really kind of separated them from the pack.
Now, looking at the next year's shootout that's coming up in this year's shootout, sorry, in August of this year, what are your expectations?
I think it's going to be bigger and better. We'll have some returning participants from our first round. We're also going to have 7 new candidates in that final 12. So I'm expecting the quality to be super high. The format has had a few little changes, but it worked pretty well the first time. So now we've got some data and some references to go from. It's going to be really interesting comparing kind of class 1 to class 2. And also those that are returning, seeing how they developed, how they progressed in sort of their downtime to having a little bit of experience of what to expect.
And last question, loaded question. What type of result from your first embarking season through Carrera Cup would you be satisfied with?
It's a hard one, because for me, I've not been a full-time race car driver since 2018, I think was the last full season I did. So there's that element of sort of you want to ease yourself in and not set too many expectations, but ultimately, obviously, we're competitive people and that's why we're here. So the intention is obviously to perform at the best of my ability, try and be at the front. From the testing we've had so far, I think the capability is there. Especially working with JDX and having a great team and a good car. So I'd be, obviously, wins I'd be very happy with. I think top 3, top 5 I'd be kind of satisfied as a first year back.
Great. Do you have anything else to add, before we call it a day?
I think I'll turn the tables on you now and sort of ask why motorsport? What led you to motorsport?
I think, growing up, I used to always love tinkering with my car. I had a 1995 Eagle Talon TSI all-wheel drive, the male version of an Eclipse. And I used to always just love tinkering with cars, taking it apart, putting it back together. I think things that's intrigued me with motorsports in general is the high caliber of individuals, because I love to be around people that are constructing a team that want to compete for something. I love taking things apart. If we're part of a team, I'll definitely have somebody within the team who can help put it back together. And I think there's just a lot of synergies with a lot of the things that I want to definitely do as a person, affecting society moving forward. That's why they're through the vertical of developing young individuals on becoming professionals in motorsports or outside of motorsports. Um, Engineering is very interesting to me, and I love being kind of firsthand with that, especially with such cool cars like a GT3 Cup car. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. But now we're building a spec Boxster racing program, which is very intriguing because that's used cars, so it's almost like the auto salvage business, which is a business that I'm very intrigued by, potentially owning one eventually. There's a lot of synergies there because those parts are going to break.
Yeah.
Henry needs to keep driving. We should be able to source those parts nice and easily. If we can vertically integrate that, I think it creates an environment where people get exposure to how business operates, how motorsports operate, and we can kind of plug and play people all across the world, all across like the different platforms. And then if I were to go a little bit further than that, I love partnering with just young talent. Um, where I've been working for a majority of my career, one of them is a very famous investor, and he recently just passed away last year. But something that always kind of intrigued me with him, with what made him so good, was how he always surrounded himself with young talent. And he would have people between the ages of 21 to 25 always interning with him or working as a first-year analyst. And that's what kept him get a really good perspective on things on the way they are in the current world. So when me and Jason are in our 70s or 80s, if we have people in their 20s, we're going to get a real good, real-life perspective. By then, if I'm going to age myself, then they're going to be around 50 or 60.
Yeah.
All right. And so, by then, it'll have a good comparison of being able to really kind of step into the shoes of those individuals. So I think something that's been really intriguing with motorsports, you can grab all these different elements and put it into a team and try to win together. That's just very exciting to me. And to add to that is to create a collaborative platform where even the youngest person on the totem pole always has a voice.
Yeah.
Not just, here's your job, do your job, like here's your paycheck.
Sure.
And if you don't like it, go find another job.
Yeah. Everybody contributes.
Here, if you're not contributing or if you're not giving your opinion, there's the door. This place isn't for you.
Yeah. Sounds good. That's really interesting. And then I think from your racing education so far, what has been the biggest surprise or what's been the most interesting part?
I would have to say the most interesting part is actually the driver-engineering relationship. I've been finding that very intriguing, how not all the time doesn't, what makes a really good driver and what makes a really good engineer, sometimes those traits can go hand in hand. Sometimes the best drivers could be really good engineers. Sometimes the best drivers shouldn't be an engineer. And they just really good at giving feedback on how the car works, and the engineer just has to interpret that. So I'm most intrigued and excited about learning how that relationship operates. And then further along with that is also, I guess it's the network effect in terms of all the different types of people you interact with within a motorsports package. And bringing people of a diverse background to that is very intriguing to me.
Awesome. And I think last question, what are you most excited for this year?
I think it's to make an impact that's lasting. Win or lose, I think we're going to win because we're putting forward people who might have already self-selected themselves out of the sport, and now we're giving them that opportunity. And now it's a pathway that model for other individuals who come from, say for instance, an esports background and they never even been on track before, or an individual who just never really just had the shot, always thought about doing it, maybe they were drifting for a while but they never really got on a road course before. And it's trying to find those individuals that really kind of have that competitive drive but also want to learn and want to learn quick. And it kind of reminds me of like being in the finance industry. So you got to learn in a hockey stick environment. So it's a very big hockey stick learning curve. And if you can't get up to pace that quick, you're not going to be able to compete. And so I think that's where I'm most like excited about this year, is seeing what kind of impact you can have on people and developing themselves as well.
Yeah, Sounds good. But yeah, it's super exciting times. You know, there's a lot of work to do, a lot of things to put in place, a lot of things to build. But we've got a pretty great foundation for everything already, I think. And yeah, obviously super grateful to be along for the ride. Bonus question: how desperate on a scale of 1 to 10 is Rover to get on camera right now?
I think he's just very attached to you.
Yeah, I know.
He's very, very attached to you.
Can't stay away.
Are we gonna get a close up on Rover?
Here, team member number 5.
Rover, say hi.
Alright, cool. Good combo. Hopefully you have more content now. You can chop away.
Yeah, go get some trophies.